Hello and welcome to this IGN Rewind Theater of the brand new Fantastic Four trailer. I'm Gav Murphy and I'm joined by Daniel Krupa.
Hello.
And so we've been waiting a while for this.
A long while, yeah.
Yeah, a long while.
The movie's out in August.
I know, right? So here we are, we're opening up in Manhattan. Now, we thought initially that maybe that sort of tall building there, because we're not natives of New York, we thought maybe that tall building there with the squares on it could have been the Baxter Building.
Yeah, because it looks like it's at 42nd and Madison, which is where the Baxter Building is located.
Yeah.
But I think it's a real building. But
It is a real
they might
building.
just be doubling up as the Baxter Building. It has a very kind of realistic approach to this whole kind of
Exactly,
treatment.
why not?
How did we get this far?
So, you've got a theory where this could be.
I mean, it's a shot of somewhere, and we thought maybe Latveria could be.
Could be, yeah.
Straight away, showing you a little sort of, I don't know, like, but then it kind of looks quite American as well with those trees.
Yeah, and there's obviously in this trailer a lot of kind of secret military stuff going on. So
Yeah.
again, it could just be one of many isolated locations where this stuff's taking place.
Yeah.
Human beings have an
Let's go back slightly, just a
Yeah.
very fleeting glimpse, and you can just make it out. It says Grimm Salvage. So obviously this alludes to the family of Ben Grimm, aka The Thing.
Yeah.
And it's a salvage yard, it's a scrap junkyard, so kind of alluding to his working class, kind of blue-collar roots.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
that's
important to the character.
It's a huge part of that character, yeah. You can't really make him a posh guy or anything like
Yeah,
that.
and these are like just a few hints of New York. So a lot of the trailer takes place literally in another dimension.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that New York is there, because I really associate the Fantastic Four, like Spider-Man,
Yeah.
really strongly with New York.
Definitely, yeah.
an immeasurable desire.
And this is kind of the major theme of the trailer, really. Is like looking to the stars,
Yeah.
science, exploration, those kind of impulses, those human impulses are really
Yeah.
key to this treatment, I guess.
It's very sort of interstellar, the trailer, the feeling of
Yeah.
the trailer all the way through, isn't it? It's also, the music you're hearing, the soundtrack, is from the TV show Broadchurch.
Which I always like to put on when I'm experimenting.
Discover.
So here, I mean, this is very interstellar, also quite reminiscent of the Star Trek reboot as well, kind of feels like that.
So who do we think's in this car?
Johnny Storm, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's a shot later on of him tinkering with the engine. So
Yeah.
I guess, alluding to him to being a bit more of a daredevil character,
Yeah.
risk taker.
Invent.
So a little experiment going on here. So
Yeah,
another
so-
car.
So I think this starts off the entire sort of storyline of what's happening. So we think this is maybe like Little Reed and Little Ben Grimm sort of doing little experiments and,
In his garage, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's an idea that he has as a child and he's developing all the way throughout his life, which then brings, the government in and they start getting interested,
Yeah.
which is what we think.
So we've spent a while trying to like untangle the timeline of this
Yeah.
trailer, because I think this experiment in this trailer happens at least 3 times
Yeah.
in different forms. So this is its most rudimentary incarnation, and he's trying to teleport a little toy car.
Yeah.
It's quite cute. And that's Owen Judge, who plays Little Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Concentrating, and he's got glasses on, so you know he's Reed Richards.
To build.
So we think that obviously he's a prodigy.
Yes.
He gets kind of a scholarship.
Yeah.
And this looks maybe the next most elaborate incarnation of that experiment.
Yeah.
And we see another version after this which seems even more refined.
Yeah, so I think, in this part, he's probably going to be working with Storm Senior. I
Yes,
think.
maybe at a
Ooh.
university.
Yeah,
so
that's
in a bit
right.
more of a benign environment than a military, industrial military complex.
And the voice in the trailer as well is Dr. Franklin Stone, who's played by Reggie Cathy. People recognize him from House of Cards and The Wire.
Yeah, so these suits, white suits, bit Future Foundation, again,
Yeah.
alluding to another part of Fantastic Four lore. But yeah, if you look at the machines, they're really kind of... Obviously, it's high-tech, but it's probably done on university budget, because there's
Yeah.
a bit of rust going on. It looks like things
Yeah.
have been salvaged. There's kind of a bit more exposed wiring than
Yeah.
later on.
So here we go, yeah. So we're assuming that this is the first proper sort of expedition into the negative zone.
Yeah, so it's an interdimensional portal taking them to another reality.
Yeah.
They're not going to be hit by cosmic rays. It's very much drawing on Mark Millar's kind of Ultimate Fantastic Four
Yeah.
origin story.
Our future.
So this looks maybe like he's been asked to pitch the concept of his invention
Yeah.
to the military, or they've got designs on it.
I think so, yeah. I think that's a big part of it. When we see Sue later on for the first time, she looks like she actually might be working for the government, I think. So
Yeah.
I think maybe,
There's a
earlier.
connection there.
Yeah, there's definitely a connection that, she's gone on to work for the government and it's taken, this idea that they've been working and tinkering with to them. And that's a big part of Mark Millar's Ultimate Fantastic Four as well. They're all these like sort of child geniuses working with the government as well, which, this looks exactly like what's going on.
Fine line between them working for the government and also being exploited. There's kind of a tension there.
Depends
Also,
on
none of them drinking their water. So what's going on there?
Mesmerised.
Yeah.
us furthering these
So you see the designs looks like for the next iteration, a more advanced version
Yeah.
of the transporter.
It's interesting we don't see who is giving this little
No.
lecture either, yeah.
To play upon that again, just a flight of fancy. What if it's Doom,
Yeah.
who's basically going maybe behind Reed's back, or is
Yeah.
like running with the technology when Reed is actually the one who can responsibly wield it?
Yeah, I think so. Or, like Doom, obviously, as a crazy evil genius, he has better designs on what it can be used for, whereas Reed has very different ideas of what his ideas can be used for, I think.
ideas.
So this looks like when possibly Reed is first taken up and given the kind of resources that he's always wanted. There's a kind
Definitely,
there's
yeah.
a kind of wonder and a joy in his face, and he's looking
Yeah.
around this kind of particle accelerator like he's just been
Yeah.
given the keys to Toys R Us.
Yeah, exactly. He's way more built than you imagine Reed to be as well. Like, Reed in my head is always an old guy anyway. But
Yeah. You're going for this incarnation, but yeah.
he's quite he looked like a badass there. Like, take those glasses off and he looked like
He's quite a cool
beat you
Miles
up.
Teller, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, he looks like he's just, I can't believe he's there.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks like there's a lot of genuine, he's a genuine guy.
Yes.
Our responsibility.
So who's this?
So this is Sue Storm. Not looking as blonde as she should, but she gets increasingly blonder throughout the trailer.
Yeah, that's her power.
Yeah.
She can't go invisible, she gets blonde hair.
But for me, this shot of her hair, obviously we don't know when this comes up in the trailer, but it looks like she's already like working with the government and way embedded with them.
It looks like the guys in the background got like military fatigues on.
Exactly, yeah, and I think maybe if this comes, early on, it would suggest to me that she is one of the ones responsible for bringing Reed into contact with the government.
Yeah,
and things like
so
that,
maybe like Reed goes to university, studies with her father.
Yeah.
And then through her father, she is alerted to his work.
That's right, yeah.
So, from the next shot, the reverse shot of that, we see what she's working on. And it looks like she's trying to track someone, trace them.
Yeah.
And the red dot indicates that person lives somewhere in Eastern Europe. And we think it's Latveria because if you look at the coordinates in the bottom left-hand corner, 23, 21, 190, 125, if you type them into a browser, it takes you to a wiki page for Latveria, which is the homeland of Doom, who is played by Toby Kebbell.
Yeah.
And he said in interviews recently that it's kind of a new spin on the character.
Right.
He's called Victor Domashev. He uses Doom as his online handle. And he's kind of like a cyber terrorist, a hacker.
Okay.
So I wonder if she's trying to track him down and she wants maybe to recruit him because he's obviously got amazing skills.
Yeah.
Shoulders of
This is our first look at Ben Grimm. He looks like he's a bit more of a jock. I can't quite make out what it says there, maybe like Oyster Bay or Easter Bay he's playing baseball for. But yeah, it's the same, going back to sort of, it sort of sees he's quite blue collar.
Yeah,
maybe.
and he's the antithesis of Reed. Even though they're friends, they're very different in life.
Yeah.
He's the brains, he's more the brawn.
generations to come.
There's that shot we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Johnny Storm working on the car.
This is straight up Transformers. Here,
Yeah, it's
isn't it?
shot a bit like Transformers. So who comes knocking there, maybe?
Yeah.
So that looks like the first experiment, the first big experiment with the white suits. This,
here.
if you look, different suits, blue suits.
Yeah.
So we're thinking this is the one, the later incarnation of the experiment once they've got military funding. It looks a bit more sleek.
Yeah, I
So it
think
looks
so.
like 6 people go into this machine as well.
Yeah. So, there's enough in for someone to die.
Yeah, red
And-
shirt. Very
yeah.
much a Star Trek red shirt moment, I think.
And I think that's Han Soto there, who is credited as Reed's doctor. From his IMDb page, that looks like that's who he is. So he's definitely dying, I think. And then what you think coming up then, just
I think
behind
the second
him.
one is Toby Kebbell.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting shots going on here. So, in the foreground, let's go back just a couple of frames. In the foreground, that looks like Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
I think to the right, I think it's Reed Richards.
I think so, yeah.
And I think at this moment, maybe his experiment's been taken away from him.
Yeah.
Maybe like through some kind of Machiavellian negotiations by Doom.
Yeah.
And it all goes wrong. And they're on the sidelines watching on. So this is the mission that goes wrong.
Yeah. Also, another sort of thing with that could actually be Ben Grimm, because he wouldn't be involved. He wouldn't be involved in the experiment at all. But it's a big thing. He's Reed's best friend. He's going to want to come and watch it as well. So maybe that's Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm watching on, because there's a shot which is just after, I think.
It looks like Reed might be in it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it'd be interesting to see how Grimm and Johnny Storm get involved with this. It seems like obviously Sue and Reed are very much the ones embedded in this world.
Definitely, yeah.
So they bring them in.
Discovery.
That's Storm's father.
Yeah, so he's watching. He looks like he's watching the first
experiment?
Yeah, experiment. Yeah.
Which you have to assume was successful for them then to pitch it to the military.
Or something has happened in here where, someone has got lost there and they have to go back to the military, or maybe it's not that as big as that.
I think maybe it was successful, and then this is the one that goes wrong when Doom gets more involved.
Yes, I think so. Because that's what happens in Ultimate Fantastic Four, isn't it? Like, he changes the coordinates, as you said, like in the comics, so...
he thinks he knows better than Reed.
That's right, yeah.
This is very much Reed's baby. But here, it looks like Reed is wearing the blue suit. So again, it's very difficult to work out. There might be even more than two journeys going on here. Yeah. And that's where it gets a bit screwy. What I think is interesting, if you look at the suit, the faceplate, that kind of almost Scorpion Sub-Zero metal faceplate, I've got a theory, because Josh Trank has alluded to David Cronenberg being an influence on this movie, in particular body horror, and The Fly. At the end of The Fly, Seth Brundle gets fused to the teleportation machine. Yeah. What if Doom's origin in this, he gets molecularly bonded to this machine and this suit? Because that looks a little bit like a Doom mask.
I think that's a good shout, because it really looks very Doom-like.
Yeah, and maybe he absorbs some of the machine's powers. Maybe he can teleport without the aid of the machine and stuff like that. Maybe that's his kind of ability. It's a free adaptation. Military people. That shot where they walk down corridors.
There is risk.
Very blonde.
Getting blonder.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's canisters in the background, so maybe she's watching on from the experiment. Is she next to Johnny Storm and Reed Richards in that shot from behind that we just saw?
Yeah, she could be, I guess. I thought initially this might have been on a planet or something, but then, there's some canisters and stuff in the background, which would suggest that they're watching an experiment. It all goes wrong.
Yeah, she looks concerned, like it's just about to, something's breaking.
So here we are.
Yeah.
So we're assuming that everything has gone wrong. And so he's covered in, obviously is lit sort of red. And I think that they've brought something back.
Yeah,
so
if you look, this looks like rubble on the right-hand side.
And it's also like reddy orange, which
Ochre,
is a big colour for a big guy that we see later on in the trailer. But I think that's what happens. So I think Grimm is there watching. They bring a bit of this rock back and it fuses with him.
Yeah,
and that's how he gets his
they're
thing,
probably they've lost Ben. We don't know where Ben is.
Yeah.
And this huge rock samples come back with him.
Yeah.
And again, very Cronenberg, very Fly,
definitely,
molecular fusion going on.
There we go. It looks like the plane from
Dark Knight Rises. That's what everyone's saying. Bit of a weird crossover.
So where's he here, do you think?
See, I don't know. And again, this is another suit. This looks a bit like the blue containment suit, but then it's got this metal strapping on. I wonder if he's built some weird makeshift harness so he can stretch a bit or something. I don't know. But I wonder if he gets spat out of the negative zone in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And he's just got to get his way back to civilization.
That seems like plausible. Maybe that's where the plane is going.
Maybe he's been in Jumanji.
Yeah. So here we go.
Here's the rock sample that's just hanging around the lab, and this happens.
So we're seeing just on the left there, you can. I think that's the top of his head, shoulder, and arm then coming over,
breaking out this mound.
But you see what I mean? So if he's standing there watching this experiment go wrong, this rock, for whatever reason, comes back through the teleporter, fuses with him, and that's how he becomes the thing.
What if they get the coordinates wrong and they teleport into off into a mountain? Yeah. And that's they're bounded on a genetic level.
Exactly.
Bonded even. So military base. I assume this is where everything's taking place, isolated out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And very blonde now. Power's
coming in.
Yeah, and you can see that's definitely Johnny Storm. She's cradling.
Yeah, and it looks like they're on the negative zone. Something really bad happening. Maybe he dies before he comes back with his powers. Almost like that's part of his transformation.
Yeah.
There are consequences.
So here we go.
This is Johnny Storm. Flame on for the first time, maybe.
Yeah. So I think here, go back, sorry. So all these guys here, so these look like military guys that have been killed. So you're assuming that maybe, and he's flaming on for a reason. So he's going somewhere that Doom has just been, killed all these guys.
Because I think in coming up, we see the shot where Doom may be walking down this corridor, taking these guys out. So it looks like the story does come back to New York, and maybe these experiments are destabilizing the rest of kind of reality.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the bigger backdrop that forces them to be kind of heroes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's set up as an out and out superhero film, but
No, that's right.
maybe that's when they do have to act. Again,
So we're assuming this is the first one that's gone on because there's those
the first big mission, yes, in
yeah.
the negative zone, because they've got the white suits on.
and they're rushing away. Then if you just let it play, here we go. Here, that's definitely Toby Kebbell.
It
There.
looks really like Toby Kebbell.
And
I think it has to be.
Yeah, and it looks like Reed is trying to save him, but he's reluctantly. Maybe he wants to stay.
Yeah,
That's a big part of it.
I think that's going to be it. I think the tension between them could be really interesting, and the interplay. Yeah.
Also, it really annoys me that Reed is wearing his glasses all the time. Get him some contact lenses. That's a pain in the ass just to have those all the time.
Laser eye surgery. They've got enough equipment hanging around. So
Here we go.
We think this is the corridor. These guys just get taken out. That's what
Yeah.
we just saw the Human Torch crouching beside. And this looks, kind of that theory we were talking about earlier on
Yeah.
about Doom getting bonded to the teleporter.
I think that
He
looks really
He
good.
looks burnt. He looks slightly metallic, maybe.
Yeah, I think you've got it. I think that's what happens. His suit gets fused to him, and that's the mask that he gets.
Yeah, and part of the machine maybe
Yeah.
even as well.
I think I'm really up for that actually because it's
Yeah.
really. I mean, Fantastic Four is really hard to do because you have to just suspend belief quite a lot for it,
Yeah.
and I think grounding it a bit more is really, really good. Although
I
I'm
think
glad.
I think if you ground it,
Yeah.
you have to go horror almost
Yeah.
because what's happened to these people, the physical transformations they undergo are horrifying.
Yeah.
If you do them in a realistic world, so
Yeah.
maybe that's.
I think that has been one of the biggest criticisms of the trailer. Like everyone's saying that Fantastic Four is fun, is meant to be
Yeah.
fun. But I don't know. This is a really interesting take on it. I think.
they're committing to it anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah. And this is I guess maybe the final elaboration of the suit before maybe we get the proper hero suits in
Yeah.
the next movie. Josh Trank has referred to these as containment suits,
Hmm.
so kind of like an astronaut suit. And the word containment almost means like, is it containing the person from something without, or is it
Yeah.
containing something from within? Is what happens to them inherently kind of dangerous?
Yeah.
And I like the stylistic. He's the fourth member of the team, and
Yeah.
maybe only 4 survive.
So here it looks like. I mean, you thought that maybe that's them trying to control their powers, or
Yeah, maybe they're freaking out. They don't know how to use them, and they're just
or maybe they're fighting because it looks like to me like he's thrown some flames at his sister.
Yeah.
Which is odd. So maybe something happens that turns them against each other because they're dealing with these powers and they don't know what to do with them. And maybe one person very similar to Chronicle. Which is obviously Josh Trank's film with Michael B. Jordan. These people get powers. They have very different ideas of what they want to do with those powers. And even though they are brother and sister, that could be happening.
yeah. Maybe
here.
it's not the 4 of them against Doom. It's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And brothers and sisters fall out.
So here we go.
So yeah, it's that kind of suit that he's kind of lashed together, a bit of the
Yeah.
harness. He's in the negative zone, the end zone, and it's the first hint of his powers, really.
Yeah, I wonder if he's been left there. Like I mean, I know you said Jumanji, but maybe he has been left somewhere, like almost like Jurassic Park 3 as well, where
Yeah.
he's been left somewhere, and then they have to go back to get him.
Yeah, and that's why it's people who wouldn't be sent on that mission by the military. They
Yeah.
sneak in and use it out of hours.
Yeah.
Because the military wouldn't send maybe Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
But they, Sue Storm persuades him or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And here's the title treatment. That's what they've been using in the comics for a few years, using the 4 as the A.
It's very cool. Be ready. Here we go. So
Yeah.
we're assuming he's talking to Doom here.
Yeah, and so it looks like he's got the regular suit on, Reed Richards. So maybe that theory about him not being in the first military experiment's right.
Yeah.
Doom comes back messed up. It's like you don't know what's out there, and that's
Yeah.
somehow they have to go back. But it looks like that's Doom on the table.
Definitely. Yeah. He doesn't look as messed up as we had thought before. So maybe he's just. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's been fused with
Yeah.
that. That just looks, and it also looks quite big as well.
Yeah.
What is coming?
So he's really setting up their relationship. And there's
we
the
go.
kind of the hero shot.
Yeah, and that looks like the plane from earlier.
Yeah.
that we saw in the background there.
So
going
maybe
through.
that's kind of the bigger kind of threat in the movie is it's destabilizing the two worlds.
Yeah,
And like Ben Grimm's just got nothing on.
yeah. I'm really happy that they've gone sort of grim. With the other Fantastic Four movie, I just hated the fact they tried to make him look like too human, and they
Yeah.
tried to keep sort of like Chikis's face. Whereas here, that's straight up comics. I
He's
think.
monstrous, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and they've got a variety of suits on. Like Michael B. Jordan is the only one with the containment suit on.
That's
so
right, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I think, what we're trying to say in this rewind is I think there's multiple trips to the end zone.
Definitely, yeah.
And a lot of the drama will centre around those journeys.
Definitely.
Okay, so that was the first Rewind Theatre for Josh Trank's Fantastic Four. For everything Marvel, DC and comic books, stay right here on IGN.